This is dropped on Thursday Thoughts here on the morning show on the SDH Network. John here, Nick there, if I get my pointing correct. Nick there, you there. And thanks for dropping by on a Thursday. Here's the rundown of the show this morning. Obviously, opening kickoff will come up in just a sec. We have sound from the media availability from yesterday with Garth Lagerwey and the assembled media. We'll play some of that. And we will get the lay of the land from Garth Lagerwey, President and CEO of Atlanta United, after the news broke in hour 2 yesterday about Carlos Bocanegra, the VP and technical director of Atlanta United, and the club parting ways. And so we now move on from that. We have 7 matches left in the regular season. Atlanta United right now in the 9 slot in the Eastern Conference. They are in the play-in game going up against Toronto FC. If it was to end today, Toronto has one more match played than Atlanta. So Atlanta has a match in hand, and Atlanta's got matchups at home that they should be able to take care of. And we'll see how things lay out here for the foreseeable future. We'll get into that. I have the impression that we're probably going long this morning, which is fine. We've got qualifiers to talk about, common ball qualifiers. Our buddy Nino Torres is going to join us in hour number 2 with the Power Hour with Nino and Niko. Nino's going to talk about common ball qualifiers, anything else on his mind. Excuse me. Niko Moreno is going to join us at 10:30 for the last half hour of the show. With Niko, we'll get into Chris Henderson because that's a part of the plot line in hour number 1 that we'll be getting into. And we'll discuss Chris Henderson with Niko after breaking down what Tom Bogert said about Chris Henderson. So we'll have Niko to kind of give the background about Chris Henderson as a front office guru here in Major League Soccer. So that'll be a part of the discussion with Niko. We've got half a dozen games to play cliffhanger about. Anything else on Niko's mind as he comes in. But this morning we've got the Ballon d'Or. We've got news of the morning. We've got stuff overseas. We've got qualifiers on this side of the Atlantic to get into. So there's plenty to get into. Nick, opening thoughts before we get everybody into opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Hit me.
Well, a lot of people are getting what they want. So you have a lot of people who wanted Carlos out for a while for various reasons. You have what you want. If you go by the quotes of what Garth had said during the presser, it sounds like he wanted a totally fresh start with the team. So he has what he wants. So now it's legacy time for everyone involved. You know, for good, for worse, whatever. We have no idea how this is going to turn out. But if, you know, for those who wanted him gone, great. Let's see who Garth brings in now in a general manager role. It's going to be interesting to see who he brings in. And what, because to me, that's, you can bring in whatever players you want. That's fine. But the general manager is the person who is going to be really setting a tone for the team going forward. So I want to see what kind of hire they make. Are you bringing in somebody from overseas? Are you doing somebody who's domestic? You know, what kind of power will they have? You know, what kind of relationship are they going to have with the first team manager? There's so many questions now that we're in sort of an in-between period, you know, like where you have what you want, but there's no immediate elevation. So now we're sort of stuck in this waiting period. So we ride this out. I have far more questions than I do answers at this point.
Yeah, and you are in the majority opinion, sir. And like I said, we'll get into the Garth Lagerwey sound from yesterday's media availability coming up in just a sec. Opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. What you do when you go to Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com, you hit that QR code. For those of you who are watching on the video version, however you're doing so, whether it's on the YouTubes, the Twitch, or the 280-character app, go through that QR code. Go to our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested youth games, youth initiatives from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Traditionally, opening kickoff kind of gets us into the show. Might be something, fairly newsy that kind of leans us into what's going on here in the sport. And we're going to talk national team stuff here for a couple of minutes in opening kickoff as everybody comes in with their morning cup of coffee and they get ready to talk about Atlanta United and all the other news of the day. So yesterday it was divulged that Croy Bethune, for those that follow the University of Georgia, is going to miss the rest of the NWSL season after apparently suffering a knee injury throwing the ceremonial first pitch at a Nationals game last week. Spirit said that Bethune, who was part of the Olympic team, suffered a torn meniscus, quote, away from training. Yes, and I did just use air quotes. And won't play again in 24 as she rehabs the injury back on last week. Those are the words I'm looking for. Last week at the Nationals game. The video's out there. They were honoring some of the gold medal winners from Paris. And so Croy Bethune goes out, throws the first pitch, and you can maybe see where it happened, but torn meniscus. Didn't travel with the team for Sunday's 1-1 draw at San Diego. Spirit coach Jonathan Giralda said after that match, she had a problem making the first pitch in the baseball game. Not going to be available this season. It's a part of life you have to keep going in. Quote, third overall pick in the draft out of the University of Georgia. 5 goals, 10 assists, 17 games. She was honored alongside Trinity Rodman, Casey Kruger, and Hal Hirschfeld on August 28th. And looking at wire reports from the Associated Press, the AP said that she appeared to grimace slightly walking off the mound after making the pitch. So Rookie of the Year contender Croy Bethune from the University of Georgia out for the season for making a first pitch at a Washington Nationals game. So we'll keep an eye on that. Also on the board last night, I don't know if you saw it, it was the second game in the group stage for the U20s in Colombia. Una McCormick scored after the break. Maddie Dalian scored in the second half stoppage time. USA takes control of their World Cup fate at the U20 World Cup. Here is that goal that started things off for the United States as they were pretty much having to fight a team that was bunkered fairly. They were really tight inside the 18, and the U.S. national team had to get a lot of work done. Riley Jackson hit the crossbar early in the first half, but a lot of work had to be done by the outside. Then you had this moment early in the second half. The U.S. women's national team, the U20s, got on the board.
Thompson. Good ball in. Oh, there's the opener. Pietra Tordin with the perfect strike through the bodies. Goalkeeper unsighted. And the USA finally make the breakthrough. Tordin or McCormack. Both of them were on the scene. Una McCormack makes the breakthrough. Thompson, perfect pass, good first touch, then a second, out of her feet. McCormack rifled it low into the back of the net. Only recently made a debut at under 20 level on the score sheet. You can see her delight.
All right, and there you go. Courtesy of our friends at FS2. At the Estadio Pascual Guerrero in Cali, Colombia, the Americans now second place tie on points with Paraguay in Group C. They face each other in the group stage finale on Saturday. Reigning U20 World Cup champ Spain is 2-0. Opened the tournament with a 1-0 win against the U.S., defeated Paraguay 2-0. In the other Group C match, they get Morocco. So simultaneous starts on Saturday. So a win last night for the U20s, and keep an eye on that over the weekend. So, all right, that's opening kickoff. Once again, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Once again, there's your QR code for those of you who are watching on the video side of things. However, you're accessing us on YouTube, on Twitch, on the 280-character app. click on that. You start your day with Kickoff Coffee. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right, so now let's get into what happened yesterday afternoon. Garth Lagerwey, the media availability with the assembled media, wanting to know the future of Atlanta United. And now that Carlos Bocanegra, Vice President, Technical Director, and the club have parted ways, then it was Garth and the media trying to find the future from here. And so, once again, courtesy of Atlanta United, here's the early thoughts. And what we're doing here, we're not doing sound bites. It's going to be full quotes. And like I said, some of the stuff might be a little long, but I think it's worth it. Because sound bites in a situation like this, where this is and I don't think this is hyperbole. This is a seminal moment for Atlanta United and the future of the club. So we're playing sound bites in full. I'm not going to do 20 seconds and sit there and have people guessing about context or anything like that. We're going to play full sound bites here. Here are the initial thoughts of Garth Lagerwey, President and CEO, about Carlos Bocanegra and the time here at the club and why yesterday happened the way that it did.
The evaluation was about the body of work. And the body of work, not just over the last 18 months when I've been here, but over the last 5 years. And ultimately, we decided that despite some incredible successes, Carlos was founding member of this organization. He's the one who set the bar so high, winning not just the 2018 MLS Cup, but Campeones Cup and the Open Cup. So he really did a tremendous job for the organization over many years. And ultimately, as we evolved our player model and we went into more of an analytics-based player evaluation process, we just felt that ultimately we were gonna evolve, and again wanted to preserve our flexibility going into 2025 and really look at it and say, hey, for the first time we have a clean slate. We have an ability to kind of relaunch the franchise, and we're really excited about that opportunity.
So there you go, Nick. That was the early thoughts of Garth Lagerwey. 2025, you have 2 DP slots that are going to be available for you. There is some work to do. I know that folks are looking at left wing. I know that folks are looking at star striker. You've brought in Alexei Miranchuk. You have 9 individuals whose contracts end at the end of the calendar year. And there are some decisions that have to be made with those 9 to start things out. But that's the early thoughts of Garth Lagerwey about why yesterday happened for Atlanta United.
I understand I understand what Garth was talking about, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that there was a period of time where, 2018, 2019, where Atlanta United looked like they had become the new standard bearer of the league, right?
Yep.
And, obviously things changed, and you wanted more hits than you did misses.
Right.
And it seemed like there were some challenges in that department. I do have questions rather of the comment of, I feel like we can finally move forward.
Mm-hmm.
That part is it. If you say something like that, and Garth is a lawyer, man, he's a smart guy. He knows what he says sticks, and he knows that it has weight. When you say something like, I feel like we can finally move forward, and we have this analytics model,
mm-hmm.
I have questions about the analytics model in the sport of soccer. Because you can't, it's not just about, XG this and, completed passes in this frame and we're getting into the minutia, the numbers here.
Right.
Personality has a role in this. Soccer is a sport where vibes and aura count.
Yeah.
It just is. It's the artistic nature of the sport. the analytics model in general scares me to death because I don't think it translates every time.
Right.
And because each situation's different. When somebody says, you got to trust me because I had success elsewhere, that's not something I subscribe to. I don't buy into that. And that's not just Garth. If you watch the NFL, how many times have we seen people from the Patriots organization go somewhere else and say, I'm bringing the Patriots way here?
Right.
And how often has that led to success? So I've seen it in the corporate world where a seller or an executive comes from a company that says, hey, we led this organization for this period of time. We had all this success and we're going to do the exact same thing here. And it falls apart. Like it just doesn't translate well. I don't know. Like, it's one thing to say, I want Seattle Sounders trophies, right? I think a lot of people would want that.
Right.
But there was a lot of infrastructure surrounding that organization to help get those trophies there. And I'm not entirely convinced that Atlanta would stomach some of the stuff that was stomached up in Seattle to get those trophies. Remember Zombie Sounders, right? We were like, oh man, everyone, it's all going to, can you imagine Zombie Sounders here in Atlanta? I don't think that would work. I think this is a city and a fan base that requires sizzle with the steak. Yeah. And if anyone on the Twitch pitch wants to have a conversation about that, I'm happy to do it. But I think this is a city that requires you to not just get a win, but to be flashy while doing it. This next hire to me is going to say a lot about how Garth views winning because we had a guy here named Frank DeBoer. Mm-hmm. Frank DeBoer was winning 1-0.
Yeah.
And I heard endlessly, fire DeBoer. It's DeBoring. I want my old Atlanta United back. I want us exciting, fun, wide open ball. Why are we grinding these results out? This is boring and terrible. And you were one failed close down away from going to a second MLS Cup. Mm-hmm. This city will not, unless they prove me wrong, will not sit here and let an MLS 1.5 regime take over. You may be successful with MLS 1.5 model, which is, hey, we get a coach in here who's very pragmatic, has no problem bunkering for a certain period of time. We have players who are kind of, I'm not going to say no-name guys, but they're kind of, a couple of scrappy cats with no personality.
Well, yeah, dudes that fit roles, basically.
Right, yeah, like some good, solid role players. I don't know if Atlanta's going to subscribe to that. Mm-hmm. I don't, because I've seen a successful Atlanta United team where the fan base did not accept that. I don't think there's any counterpoint to that. It was largely not accepted. And what they do now is going to be sort of interesting to see, because is this fan base going to say, I want my old Atlanta United back? Or are they going to say, okay, we've seen what the alternative is, so we're okay now with scrappy 1-0 wins out of the gate? But I would like to know what the next general manager is going to subscribe to. If you say we're going to this analytics model, okay, all right. I have more questions than I do anything. I think generally on this show, mm-hmm. I have been known to be someone who encourages patience.
Yeah.
I've been someone who typically encourages, some logic-based thought. But I think for the first time, I have more concerns than I do hope.
Okay.
And that is my take. That's not representative of the SDH network or anybody within. But if you ask my opinion, I have more concerns and more and more of a nervous mindset regarding this than I do than I did 48 hours ago.
Okay. And then Garth was also asked about the head coach search and what steps are going to be walked through from here. Here's his answer.
Yes, in the sense that I'm the acting GM, so I'll be leading the search, and the GM will be involved. I think, as a practical matter, a lot of the candidates we want to talk to for the GM search may be employed by other teams, and those guys aren't going to be available till after the season. So I do think that, given my former experience, I can bridge that gap pretty readily, and I can represent what a GM is going to want as we go forward with a head coaching search.
So Garth will be in charge as acting general manager, vice president, technical director, in addition to president and CEO. So he will be the one that will be, along with AMBSE, Arthur M. Blank Sports and Entertainment, along with AMBSE advisors, that will be a part of the process. And then wondering about the folks who are on the call were wondering about the GM role itself. Here's his answer to that.
We will not do a dual role. We believe very strongly in the separation of church and state. You need one person to do on the field, one person to do off the field. That's the structure I've had my whole career. So we'll definitely be two people. We will definitely be hiring a GM. The good news is obviously I've done that role, and so I feel capable of running the head coaching search alongside some trusted AMBSC leadership. And so we will look to keep those two roles separate. And in terms of profile for, I think you're asking profile for the GM. I think it's critically important that person have MLS experience. It's such a specialized system with the salary cap that I think that's vitally important. Obviously, it'll be a global search. We'll cast a wide net. But if I have confidence in any market, in terms of what I know the GM market in and around MLS over the last 20 years.
So, Nick, when it comes to the general manager, it is going to be an individual that has MLS experience because of the intricacies that are attached to navigating a cap, knowing how much space you have, what you can do, how you can do it, how you look at the rules of engagement. It will be a worldwide search, but MLS experience attached to it. And in that last soundbite, Garth said you will not have a head coach / GM. You will not have a Bob Bradley, Toronto FC. You will not have a Bill Parcells. You will not have a Bill Belichickian kind of a situation. You're going to have somebody upstairs. You're going to have somebody downstairs when it comes to those two roles.
Yeah. Okay. So in regards to the timing of this, because timing is important, right? In regards to the timing, when you remove your general manager at this point of the year, essentially what you're signaling to every executive out there is, if you are interested in changing locations, Atlanta is a viable landing spot for you. So every agent out there is now looking at this and reaching out to their people saying, hey, do you remember that conversation that we had about 6 months ago about how you're kind of feeling a little confined in your current role? Well, Atlanta just opened up, right? That's, I think, great. That's fine. The timing of the removal does not concern me. It is the time between now and the end of the year that concerns me.
Okay.
From the standpoint of a couple of things. One is that you were going to be asking a general manager to come in here with the following understanding.
Okay.
That one, you're probably pretty far along in your coaching search at this point. So your ideas as a general manager will be taken into consideration, but you're largely going to be on the outside looking in from that standpoint. Unless you have 5 candidates, and you say, okay, here's your 5 candidates. Which one do you want to look at? Then great. Okay. I may feel as a potential general manager candidate. Okay. All right. I have a pretty decent amount of say so here. But if you're like, we've been negotiating now with 2 guys and we're pretty much set on candidate A, as a general manager, it's like, okay, all right. I guess I'm working with candidate A here. You're going to be sort of limited on your input. You're going to be limited on, because your scouting model is already set up. It's numbers based. It's analytics, right? So you're going to be sort of, confined there as well. I just have concerns here with how that is going to be set up, because between now and the end of the year, if you're asking a new manager to come in, you're going to have to set up a new system in a very short period of time. You're going to have to you're going to sign 2 designated players. You don't have to, but, probably be a good idea.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to fit them within your model under a new manager, under a new general manager as well, with an executive who has occupied this role before, right? Yeah. But it's more of, hey, we have a square peg round hole situation here, and we will just kind of figure out a way that you fit in, is the way it feels to me. That it sounds like they already have, like, I don't know. It feels like you already have a coaching search that's well underway. You're sending a signal now to executives that the spot is open. I do have questions about what kind of say-so and what kind of role the new general manager will have coming in, because it feels like you're almost a steward in that perspective. There's a role here, but you're more occupying this role as opposed to coming in and making transformative change. That Garth is the transformative change agent, and you are simply the steward of that change. That's what it feels like. That Garth is the change agent, which is fine. I just question what the role the general manager will actually be having, because being a change agent is attractive to some people. Like, hey, it's my chance to put my fingerprint on this franchise to turn things around. But if that change has already been done, that really lessens my legacy here.
Right.
My fingerprint isn't as quite as on the numbers I would hope it would be.
Yeah. I will add to your information that with Rob Valentino still being considered as a part of the head coach search, then the timetable for that is end of the regular season. So that could still be in play. Like I said, I'm just putting the schedule out there as a part of the discussion, which leads us to point 2B or 3B, however you want to phrase it. Tom Bogert over at Give Me Sport now had an article up and running about Atlanta United, why they fired Carlos and what comes next. So Tom runs through the history, gives the history lesson with the quotes, some of which we've been playing this morning. So head coach, GM, 2 DP slots in the offseason. Garth's acting GM, overseeing the search for both the new GM and a head coach. So now what? What about an individual that knows the landscape? As we've said, a GM that it will be a worldwide search, but someone with MLS experience. Bogert, and like I said, this will be brought up once again with Niko Moreno at 10:30, the last half hour of the show. One name, and this is Bogert at Give Me Sport. One name that quickly surfaced from sources across the league is Inter Miami sporting director Chris Henderson. Traditionally, I would identify the club by a different name, but we're talking serious stuff right now. Henderson worked with Lagerwey for years during a run with the Sounders. Miami recently hired Raul Sanlehi as president of football operations, and he is Henderson's current boss. Sanlehi and Henderson have made nothing but positive public comments since the announcement. Sources tell Give Me Sport that Sanlehi took over Henderson's office and Henderson moved to a different one in the building. Even prior to Sanlehi's hire, sources across the league wondered if Henderson could be poached from Miami. Paragraph. The developments in Miami happen to take place ahead of a crucial winter for Atlanta United openings at TD and head coach, plus the potential to bring in a handful of high-impact signings. Quotes from Garth Lagerwey that we also have on tape in a sec. So, Chris Henderson's name, basically Bogart buries the lead, puts it at the end of the article, that now names being floated include Chris Henderson, which makes sense because of the past relationship that Lagerwey and Henderson have, because he has GM experience in Major League Soccer, because of what he has done in massaging, navigating, working his way in, around, and through the cap issues, and I'll call them issues, hurdles, whatever you want to say, involving Major League Soccer. So Henderson does make sense on the surface without any real knowledge of who is being talked to, who is being considered, who could be considered, where they are in the search, what have you. Chris Henderson would be a no-brainer to knock on the door and say, excuse me, sir, would you like to discuss this because of past relationships and everything? And you're seeing the success of the Gulfstream Galacticos and navigating the salary cap. It makes sense. So we'll talk to Niko in the final half hour and find out about Chris Henderson, find out the kind of individual he is, find out about the relationship that Garth and Chris have. And if you are Atlanta United, Nick, and you are at this moment of transformation and you have a transformative change agent who is your president and CEO and acting general manager, and you have an owner that is not afraid to invest, however he invests, and you have a club that has, say, $35 million. I'm taking the 50 and subtracting the 15 from Iranchuk. That has, say, $35 million or so to play with in the window to bring in transformative change on the field, why not swing for the fences and go chase after a guy like Chris Henderson? All of these points make sense, but are we heading in that direction? That's the larger question here.
Is that a swing for the fence hire?
I would think so, because of considering where Inter Miami is. Well, and think of, I'm looking at it from the point of, okay, worldwide search, MLS experience, general manager experience.
To me, that's not okay. First of all, I would like to address the comment that they're looking at a worldwide search. They're not looking at a worldwide search. I disagree with that assessment.
Yeah.
For one key point, we're looking for someone with MLS experience.
Right.
How worldwide is that?
Well, let's find out. I'll while you're continuing to discuss your point.
Okay. Yeah. Please and thank you. Yes. Okay. The names of general manager candidates with MLS experience, I'm guessing, is in single digits. To me, that does not qualify a worldwide search. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that Garth was being dishonest. I'm just simply saying that, in my opinion, it's an inaccurate term. And this goes back to the concern that I have. Atlanta came into the league as a swing for the fences franchise. That we were the people who went to do things bigger and bolder. And if it failed, it failed. But baby, we were going for the fences. Mm-hmm. There is an attractiveness to that sort of mindset. Who is Chris Henderson in his current role in Miami if Antonella tells Lionel Messi, I'm okay with us going to Saudi Arabia?
Understood.
That's the question I have, because in this and I'm sorry, that's a valid ass question. If Antonella says, Lionel, I'm perfectly happy going to Saudi Arabia, what would Chris Henderson's role be in Miami? Because you're not getting Suarez to Miami. You're not getting Jordi Alba to Miami. You're not getting, any of these other cats that are showing up there.
Sergi Busquets, yeah.
Yeah, but you're not getting Busquets in Miami. It's not happening. I mean, they were a very mid team until Lionel Messi showed up. And so that's fine. But if you say, okay, well, we're getting this guy from Inter Miami who has phenomenal cap, orchestration abilities, that's great, because the league looks very favorably upon Inter Miami.
Mm-hmm.
That relationship will not, that friendly eye, shall we say, that the benefit of the doubt will not extend beyond the pink and black. I think it's pretty safe to say. So again, is this a swing for the fences higher? Tata Martino was a swing for the fences higher.
Mm-hmm.
That is my sort of baseline here, and I'm not being nostalgic. I remember when they said Atlanta's hiring Tata Martino, the whole league went, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
Huh? It's the one thing that there's no cap limit expenditure for managers and general managers. None. That doesn't fall under your salary cap. You can spend as much as you want. So it just seems to me that hiring a former colleague is not a swing for the fences hire. And that is, it's hard for me to get excited. And I would get excited about a good general manager hire, but it's hard for me to get excited about a team that was very mid before, one of the, if not the greatest player in history, decided, yep, I'm going to come here and be a business man,
mm-hmm.
and bring all my buddies with me, because there's no recruitment that Mr. Henderson, to my knowledge, has taken. There's no recruitment process. People came to play with Messi, right? So the recruitment side of the ball is, to me, okay, that's any role you may have had has been greatly diminished or overshadowed or eclipsed by one Mr. Lionel Messi. Success on the field. Miami was not a successful franchise before Lionel Messi showed up. So he's sort of the Saladin of Inter Miami, for all you history junkies out there. So that's been eclipsed as well. And to say, okay, he's good at massaging cap numbers. Okay, great. But I need somebody who can recruit players. Even if you have an analytics engine, an analytics model, you still have to recruit the player to come here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're not South Beach. We're not Los Angeles. We're not Manhattan, which means that our attractiveness is centered around the almighty dollar. Okay, great. So we have a cap specialist who can massage that. But does Mr. Henderson have the relationships globally to make these moves happen? Does he have the ability to, meet these players at their level to convince them to come here? I like Miranchuk. From the very limited bit I saw with Miranchuk, great. My cousin who lives in Bergamo said that they will miss Miranchuk in Atalanta, because when he was, making his way onto the field, that he was a very gifted passer, distributor of the ball, silky with the feet, but it's we're just seeing what he can do, so it's hard for me to be excited about that.
Yeah.
I think if this is a redefinition of swing for the fences, I don't feel any better. I don't feel any better about it.
Yeah. Cursory search. You're talking Bezbatchenko and Isatal out of Columbus. You're talking Mackay at DC United, Giuliani at St. Louis City. Those are the folks right now in that position that have the worldwide exposure that they have worked overseas, in addition to working in Major League Soccer. Like I said, that's just a cursory buzzing search at 9 miles an hour.
Okay, right. So, but those are all names that are currently based in the United States.
Yeah, but all MLSers, yes.
Okay, right. So it's not a global search.
They have.
I know. I'm being. It comes across as me being petty and pedantic. I know, but if this was L.A. or New York or Miami saying we're doing a global search, then to me that means, hey, look, we're going to poach this executive from Barcelona. We're going to poach this executive from Rennes. We're going to poach this executive from West Ham. To me, that's global search,
right?
Where you're going to tap somebody from another organization, like AMBSE did with Darren Eales. We're getting somebody out of the Tottenham Hotspur organization to come in here,
right?
Who has international business dealings, who understands the global soccer market. To me, that is global search. Darren Eales had no MLS experience before coming in, if I remember correctly. But when you say they have to have MLS experience, you're doing a nationwide search. That's fine. But to me, that takes the fences out of the swinging toward. We're just trying to put the ball in play, to use another baseball reference.
Right.
That's the concern I have.
Right. And Rich going, or it's from America, but he's international or global. And David meaning, is this a term of art with worldwide, meaning they won't limit, in quotation marks, their search by geography of folks currently working that they're interested in.
Right. What I'm saying, though, is that there's a big difference. Are you a successful seller? Yeah, man, I'm an unbelievably successful seller, right? I'm unbelievably successful. Oh, wow, man, this guy sounds like he's a big deal. And then finally someone asks, where were you a big deal selling? Foot Locker. Oh.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You made it sound like you were selling for like a Fortune 500 or something,
Right.
No, it's a big deal. Foot Locker. Oh, okay. Well, we're going to look at some other candidates. Thank you. That's what I'm saying, though.
Yeah, no,
you have to be careful with what you say,
right?
Because especially this fan base, we are used to a different caliber of worldwide search than a lot of other MLS executives are.
Right.
And that to me is the different. That's where this comes in. If you're saying global search, this fan base will interpret global search very differently than somebody from Real Salt Lake or somebody from, St. Louis or somebody from, Charlotte FC. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So be very careful with what the term of art you use.
Yeah. As you invoke Z-Man into the conversation, Zoran Cornetta. Garth was asked about the pressure attached to what is going to be going on with Atlanta United going forward.
Look, I think that the results have not been up to our standard for the last 5 years. Certainly, let's just talk about me. Those results are not are not up to my expectation. So yeah, I mean, look, every decision ultimately is mine with respect to Atlanta United, and has been since I arrived. So yeah, it's not up to that standard. And look, I am happy and excited about the ability now to pick a general manager and pick a head coach, and to have a lot of flexibility, to pick designated players whose personalities, whose long-term expectations may be better aligned with a club focused on some more stability. Instead of buy, develop, sell, can we sign prime age designated players so they can play in most of the games, And they are committed to the club. They are committed to Atlanta United, and they have the potential to stay here for a long time. And, I think we've seen, from the inception of Atlanta United, when players are here and the fan base embraces them. The most beloved players in Atlanta United history, guys like Brad Guzan, Joseph Martinez, part of those guys have been here for a long time in Brad's case, and certainly Joseph was as well. So we want that stability. We want that continuity. And look, yes, absolutely, our expectation has been better. And look, I think my track record speaks for itself in terms of what I want to do. And the reason why I came to Atlanta United is simply to win championships. It's nothing less than that. And, I really felt like we were on a path where we weren't capable of winning championships. And so we had to undo a bunch of things in order to set us up with a different foundation to go forward and be successful long-term. Because at the end of the day, making the playoffs isn't our goal. At the end of the day, winning a playoff series isn't our goal. We're here to win the whole thing. And there's not really any point in doing this unless that's the objective. Given the resources we have, given the ambition of the club, everything is possible here. And I that's really what I'm excited about now is for the first time for me, truly in 2 years, we have the ability now to truly go forward. We have cleared the decks. We have incredible possibility. We can now bring our resources to bear. And I'm really excited about that opportunity.
Yes.
There are not many analytics engines that would have picked up Joseph Martinez out of Torino. Joseph at the time was being run out as a winger and not a striker. He was riding the bench. There's not a lot of analytics that would have told you that Martinez is somebody you should go after. The Martinez of the Joseph variety.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's a lot of analytics that would have said that Brad Guzan was the keeper you should have brought in. There are, and the eye test does not always meet the analytic test.
Right.
Would Miguel Almiron have passed the analytics engine test? Would Tito Villalba have passed the analytics test? That is, yeah, Alex, I believe that is correct. I believe Joe Hart did recommend Joseph. So analytics has its place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that you throw all the, you throw all of it out, and just go off of the old school, 1964 British manager mentality of, oh, that one right there. Yeah. Like that. No, analytics has a place, right? As an enthusiast of, of Dynamo Kiev and Ralph Rangnick, analytics means something, man. They do, but it's not the be all end all. I question the meaning of the term. We finally have a clear deck and we can finally move forward. I really want to know what he means by that.
I think that if I'm interpreting it correctly, I think Garth is looking at all of the contracts that were troublesome.
Yes.
And we're weighing Atlanta United down within the cap structure of Major League Soccer. I think that Garth is now confident that those individuals and those contracts have been settled, not a part of the books anymore. We now have more financial freedom to navigate within the cap than we had previously.
You're right. Okay. I think that's acceptable. That's acceptable. I have more questions than I do anything else. And, and Garth speaks to his track record. And I've addressed that. I don't buy track record.
Right.
I don't, because you're talking about a special situation in which, there were a lot of hands working to build that monster up in the Pacific Northwest. There were a lot of hands here in Atlanta that helped build 2018, 2017, the 2017 run, the 2018 championship, and the 2019, Open Cup and Campeones Cup, and the one failed close down to the MLS, back-to-back MLS Cup appearances. Track record to me, from an executive standpoint, is very hard to measure. It is extraordinarily. It's hard to get people excited by. Trust me, I know what I'm doing here. And in the same statement, talk about how the past couple of years have not been up to standard.
Yeah.
I can't sit there and with one hand say, because if you're asking me to put my hands out like a scale, I cannot just measure the years you had up in Seattle. I have to also measure the past couple of years here in Atlanta.
Right.
I have to. You're asking me to do that when you say, look at my track record. I have to do that. So and this is me being as fair as I can be. And there may be people over at the facility who listen to this and are like, this kid's an idiot.
Yeah.
And that's fine to say that. But words have meaning.
Yeah.
And words have weight. And a track record is, hey, I have a perfect driving record except for those 2 speeding tickets I got, in the past 2 years.
Right.
I have to count those, man. My credit report, I have fantastic credit unless you count the 2 missed mortgage payments that I had, but which I've been great since, or I had perfect record until, I'm sorry, the credit report takes all of it into account.
Right.
And so we don't have a credit reporting agency for Atlanta United, but we do have a track record that has not been swell. It has not been great. And that's universally recognized. So I think it's something that it is very, very, very fair to point out that where this is not a coach situation, a beloved coach who's retiring and hanging it up. This is not a situation where you have a general manager who is walking away or going to a national team position. If Carlos was just like, had better success and was walking away, then I think we're having a very different conversation right now.
Yeah.
But you're talking a few seasons of futility, by every sense of the word, futility, and being told that, hey, look at my track record. Well, we are, and that's why there's a bit of concern. And I think it's justified concern. Now, we don't live in Missouri, but we can officially be the show me state. Show me what you mean. Show me what you mean by we are clearing the books. We can finally move forward. Show me what you mean. Like what kind of team is Atlanta United going to be going forward?
Right.
I am a season ticket holder. I'm a founding member. There's that little wall outside of Mercedes-Benz Stadium where my family's name is on it. Right. I think I was like, number 1,400 something, an initial season ticket. The promissory, you pay your $60 and you get put on. I was right there. I'm not someone who has no tickets. I have no seats. I, issue hot takes to get clicks. That's not me. Mm-hmm. I am a paying ass customer. Yeah. And I think I've earned the right to say, great, there's no credit being given here. You got to show me.
Okay.
That's just
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And trust me, I understand where you're coming from when it comes to all of this. We will definitely ask Niko about Chris and Garth and getting a bit of a knowledge base involving their relationship and home run hires and all that kind of stuff when Niko joins us in the final half hour of the show. It is, you're mentioning all of the last year and a half. I would also posit that you can't continue to, like I said, we're waiting for Nino Torres to join us from Peru for a bit of a bookmark segment talking about Commonwealth qualifying and his soccer over there-ness. But I would also posit that at the same time, in trying to jettison bad contracts, like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
In the same time of trying to jettison bad contracts and continue to be competitive and still try to chase after playoff spots, championships, etc., you can't just do a big old dump and try and be as competitive, considering how the structure of Major League Soccer is when it comes to salary cap and chasing after individuals, because windows are different from the international, from the rest of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
It's a part of the juggling act of, okay, what can I do kind of in stages to fix the situation? Because I can't just sit there and take it all and throw it out the window, because then what are we doing to try to try and stay competitive in Major League Soccer? Does that make any sense?
No, it does. It does. And after, when we had that insane run of injuries,
right? Yeah.
And you had to, I was like, okay, well, we kind of have to have enough people to play the game.
Right. Yeah.
You did that whole rash of injuries made you have to do some really creative signings, and a lot of it was boomer bust signings.
Yeah.
And you are free from those contracts now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I would have, and maybe it's just the PR guy in me, I would have said, look, a few years back, we had a run of injuries. We had to make a bunch of signings that were boomer bust. And,
we had to take the financial hit then.
Right.
We really had no choice in the matter.
Correct. 100%. We had to put ourselves, we had to take the financial hit. We had to take our financial medicine. We are now free from that. We are now free and clear from that period to where we can now have full freedom and cap flexibility.
Right.
I may have worded it a bit differently than making it sound like, it happened in a vacuum,
right.
Yeah. That was a really rough period of time.
Yeah.
And so you really did have to make some crazy signings in order to, field a remotely competitive team.
Yeah.
So, there is that.
Yes, there. Yeah. So we'll put a bookmark in that, and when Niko joins us in a half hour, we will have that conversation. It is time. I wish I had some kind of fancy intro, with drums and drum kits and trumpets and maybe the marching 100 from Florida A&M or something like that. Some kind of a trumpet fanfare, because it is hour number 2, and that means one thing, that it is the Power Hour officially, where we catch up with our buddy, unrestricted free agent Nino Torres, to start things off. Nino, my brother, it is Nick, it is John, and it is you. What is up, sir?
Hey, hello, people. Hello, America. I'm Nino Torres here from Lima, Peru. Very excited, all pumped because of World Cup qualifiers kicking off today. My beloved Peru. I don't know what are we going to do with Colombia, but we're going to talk about that. But of course, you know me. I gotta show you something, right? Always gotta show you something. And this is it.
Oh man!
Whoa!
Look at that!
Look at that!
Beautiful?
That is spectacular.
It's Farfan.
Oh, Farfan, man!
Yeah, Farfan, my favorite player for the last 30 years for us.
Wow. So we're fully loaded with Farfan today. That's how you're leading off. I see how.
Yes, sir.
We got qualifying. You're styling and profiling in your jersey, and you're trying to stay properly hydrated, as you should.
Yes, sir.
When you look at this round of qualifying, I might need you to, in just in theory, not in actual form. I need you to put that jersey off to the side. I need you to put put the pullover back on it, and I need you to put your analyst hat on. When you look at this round of qualifying that's going on as folks are chasing after world championships, today it is Bolivia, Venezuela. Bolivia is favored at minus 102. And then at 8 o'clock tonight, Argentina and Chile. And Argentina is a bunch of heavy hitters right now to minus 345. When you look at the activity today, before we get into the activity tomorrow, what sticks in your mind with these four teams?
For today, all for the locals, man. All for the locals. There's the numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. Venezuela only won once in Bolivia. Only once. After the 22 minutes in La Paz, and now I'm playing at El Alto. So they added a few more, a couple of 100 more meters above the sea level if it wasn't enough to play in La Paz. So they're going, they went to El Alto, which is I think it's like 400 meters, 300 yards higher than usual. So Minnesota only won once there. I don't think they but you never know. I don't know, because Venezuela has been undefeated in the last 5 rounds of the competition. Undefeated, man. They're running wild and they're so solid. They are on pace. And I predicted this last year, actually, that Venezuela was going to qualify for the World Cup. So I don't know about Peru. But Venezuela is on pace to finally get their golden ticket for the first time ever.
Wow.
In the history of CONMEBOL. We want to see Venezuela in the World Cup, in the 2026 World Cup. I'm telling you that. I don't think they're going to lose. I think they're going to lose. I think it's going to be a draw in La Paz. Bolivia is getting with their new coach. They got Oscar Villegas. By the way, that I mentioned, new coach. There's 6 new coaches. I mean, 6 coaches that are making the debut on these qualifiers. 6, man. It's insane. One of those is Ricardo Areca, our Ricardo Areca. I'm saying ours because he took us to the World Cup for the first time in 36 years.
Right.
And now it's with Chile, with La Roja, that they're going to play in Buenos Aires tonight. At the Monumental Stadium. They've never, ever, ever, ever won in Buenos Aires for World Cup qualifiers, Chile. And the reigning champions, the back-to-back Copa America champions. I don't know, fantastic for them. Everyone else in CONMEBOL they're having issues, right? We got a new coach with the players. It's a transition. Argentina is debating whether who's going to wear the armband, captain. That's their concern. Because there's nothing else to be concerned about. It nothing, even without Messi. All right, we don't have Messi. Okay, what happened the last 3 times that we played without Messi? All 3 victories in World Cup qualifiers. So they were heavyweights. Now I'm gonna say they are 1 or 2 steps ahead of everyone else in the toughest World Cup qualifiers in the planet.
Nick, for Nino, what's on your mind?
Well, one thing as a diehard Italy fan, I understand that certain challenges that are happening in and around a country can be a motivating drive to get you to get results. If you, and not trying to get politically into what's going on in Venezuela right now, but you have to look at the fact that, when you're playing somewhere with extreme altitude, half of it's mental, half of it's physical, because oxygen and the lack thereof is a very physical thing, but the mentality that overcome those, we can't overlook the fact that Venezuela might have a mental gear waiting for them to say, look, we need to come together and we need to do something extraordinary to kind of help lift the communities around us. I'm just saying, I know what they're physically walking into playing at that kind of extreme altitude. I could not do it, but mentally, I think that Venezuela might be in a different boat. I think that's worth considering, that they might be in a different mental space than we're kind of used to. And it doesn't hurt that they have that extraordinary run they're on, right? So,
right.
And as far as Argentina goes, Monumental, man, you know, that's going to be a tough house to play in. And to go into Buenos Aires at all is tough, but to go into Monumental is going to be woo-hoo.
And you mentioned the mental aspect too here, right? Psychological aspect, and there is a beef between Chile and Argentina that's going for ages. All right. Plus, I'm going to say, with all due respect to all my Chilean friends, I got a lot of Chilean friends. All right, but this is the thing: in South America, nobody likes you guys. Nobody likes you, but that's the reality. All right, but there is this beef. The origin of this beef is back in the 80s, right? The Malvinas War, because everyone else. Listen, I don't know if you know about this, but if you know anything about it,
yeah, go for it. Yeah,
I want to tell you a story. All right. During the 1982 conflict between the England and Argentina for the Malvinas Islands,
the Falklands,
everyone in South America was trying to support Argentina. And guess who provided the ports for the English Navy to bring their resources to South America? Guess who was that?
Wow.
Oh, Chile. My God, it's around the corner, which has got us around Argentina. We don't have to go on the East Coast. We go to the West Coast, and we come from the other side.
Wow.
Yeah. I had no clue. I try to pride myself on like all the angles, and I had no clue that this took place. This is mind-bending.
And that's why there's the beef between Argentina and Chile. It's every time, man. Every time. So
wow,
yeah, it's a crazy story, man. And in Argentina, they love us because we actually sent our Air Force. We sent, it was like 5 or 6. We sent a fleet of air combat flights over there, man.
Wow.
Well, but I mean, and this is getting into political science down here, because at the time in Chile back in the 80s, that was Augusto Pinochet.
Yeah.
And that was a dude. I mean, that was a dictator in Chile until I want to say, I mean, like the late 90s or something. But that was
1989 until 1989.
Yeah, so that was Pinochet, and that was a heavy hand that was internal. But I did not know that the garage for the Navy was just around the corner. I didn't know the parking deck for the British Navy was around the corner with a dictator. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That is crazy. But it shows you. But again, so when Chile shows up to Monumental, the memories are very, very long in that particular arena. So, and this is one of the things that I think makes CONMEBOL so fascinating. Like we were talking about the other day, if you had to introduce someone to a new league or, a new, like anything to do with football, soccer, where would you direct them? And some people are talking about the Prem and all that. I'm like, no. I would say Copa Libertadores, go Copa Libertadores and go CONMEBOL. And that's where you need to go, because there is nothing that is more interesting, in my opinion, right now than South American football. Like anywhere else in the world, it's to me is taking a back seat to what is happening right now in South America.
Crazy.
Because it's a different breed, and there's so many different aspects that you coming into place, like the one that just told you, and there's many others, of course, and we'll talk about that the next time. But it is crazy, the World Cup qualifiers in South America. That's why, you know, it is the toughest in the world. It's not because I'm South American,
right?
Because you have to face many other aspects that you don't face when you play. You know, Italy plays San Marino, Italy plays Gibraltar. You know, Ronaldo got a record of scoring 3,500 goals.
Yeah.
You know, against you know, I'm just kidding.
Hey, but
no, but okay. When does Germany have to go and play at the altitude that Brazil does when they have to go to Bolivia? Like, who else is planning that, or who else has to go and leave a place like Bolivia and go play, you know, like in Sao Paulo or Manaus or wherever Brazil elects to want to play that week? There's no greater variety, in my opinion, of climate, of culture, of pressure that beautiful melting pot of South America. There's no place like it, because I mean, to go from, well, who are you playing this week? Well, we got to play Argentina. Oh crap. Okay. World Cup champions, back-to-back Copa America. Okay. Who are you playing next week? Okay. We got to go to Brazil. Okay. Okay. Great. 5-time champions. You know, who are you going to after this?
You got those guys.
Right. Man. Who are you going to next? Colombia. Okay. Wow. Okay. They're a team that is on the ascendancy. I mean, it's madness. It is a murderer's row of talent that you have to face tournament to tournament.
It is insane. And this particular round of the qualifiers, there's some streaks, the long streaks across all the matches, right? Like Chile never won in Argentina. Venezuela won once in Bolivia. We haven't beat Colombia in 43 freaking years, man. 43 freaking years. Let me tell you how long ago was that, all right? Just to give you an idea, I watched that game on black and white TV.
Wow.
Black and white, all right? All right, just to give you an idea.
Oh man! So this round that we're going through, it's today, tomorrow, and then next week when everybody plays on the 10th. So we'll have a lot to catch up with next week. So let me just run through the juice boxes for all the matchups, and then we can talk about my boys in Brazil who are not your older brother's Brazil right now. We mentioned what's going on today. Tomorrow at 7:30, Uruguay, Paraguay. Uruguay's got a big number. They're a -182. Paraguay's a +540. Brazil tomorrow against Ecuador is a -256. Ecuador to wins a +740. Peru and Colombia. Peru's a +418. Colombia's a -141. Then
Peru.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. +418. +418, brother. I know you're sitting on that one. Then
I'm taking Peru. I'm taking Peru. Give me the number. I'll take Peru.
Then on the 10th, so if today's Thursday, so next Tuesday, Colombia at home. Colombia at home is taking on Argentina. Colombia's a +154. Draws a +212. Argentina's a +185. Chile's a -400 taking on Bolivia, who's a +1200. Ecuador's a -222 taking on Peru, who is a +600 on the road. Venezuela, Uruguay. Venezuela's a +229. Uruguay's a +125 on the road. 8:30 next Tuesday. Paraguay and Brazil. Brazil is a -164 on the road, and Paraguay at home is a +459. For those that may not know the standings and just how things are, this is how whacked this is. Argentina, and this is coming into these two matches. Argentina, top of the ladder, unbeaten. They have one loss in 6. They're at 15 points. Uruguay's 4-1-1. They're at 13 points. They've won 3 in a row. Colombia 3-0-3, 12 points. They have not lost in the competition yet, and they're clean in their last 5, but they haven't lost in 6. Venezuela's at 9 points. Ecuador, with a 3-point penalty, is right now in 5th. They would be in 4th if they hadn't been penalized. Brazil is in the 6th spot. They've lost 3 in a row. and they are in 7 points, and they're in that last spot to qualify right now. Paraguay is at 5 points ahead on goal difference with Chile. 7 is the play-in, where they probably play somebody like Oceania, and you go play Vanuatu or something to get in. Bolivia right now, 3 points. They've given up 14 goals in 6 matches, and then Peru, 0-2-4, -7 in the goal difference. They've only scored 1 goal in the 6 matches so far, 2 points on the road. They did snap the 4-game losing streak last time out with a draw. So that's where we are in all of this madness, Nino. I mean, this is it. First off, as Nick, go ahead and say your phrase about heavy competition. What is it?
Look, I got 500 of these things. Which one do you want? I mean, look, man.
The one involving the phone booth.
Oh, it's a knife fight in a phone booth, baby.
Yeah,
it's a knife fight in a phone booth. There's no telling who's coming out the winner on that one. And even if you win, you're probably going to feel like you lost. So
I like that one, man. Knife fight. I like that. I like that, man. Like that.
When you look, I mean, it's 6. Nino, it is the top 6 that go in, 7's in the play-in round. And I wanted to ask about Brazil, because this is not even your older brother's Brazil. This is a bunch that is it is so unlike them to be playing the way that they're playing. I mean, it's ugly, it's chippy, we're gonna try to bowl you over, we're gonna be physical. What is this Brazil team that we're staring at?
I'm unfortunately for them and for us, the Jogo Bonito has died. All right, has died, and I don't know when is he coming back. I don't think that Dorival Jr., the new coach, is gonna turn things around dramatically. I don't think this team is gonna change much, but they're still gonna qualify. All right, that's the reality. They're still gonna go through it, no matter if it's a 3rd place, 4th place, 2nd place. I don't know. All right, they're going to qualify, and they might. This is what's going to happen. I think they're going to go into 3rd place. They're going to leapfrog, of course, Ecuador and Venezuela at the end of the competition. But it's still not the Brazil that we love. Still not the Brazil that plays beautiful anymore. And it's I don't know it's the guidance, right? It's got to be the guidance. And we said this during this the last game in the Copa America, where all the players were determining who's gonna. I mean, not determined, but they were doing the pep talk prior to the penalty round, and the coach was outside trying to jump in. Hey, let me in. You know what? It's just they need a reality check. That's what they need. And I don't think that Dorival Jr. has the authority, or I don't think that they need, who they need? They need someone who's well respected. And right now, I don't think there is a coach in Brazil. That's why they were trying to get Ancelotti. That's why they were trying to get Ancelotti to coach Brazil, because they need a figure like that. The league of the freaking Tony Soprano to lead this way. All right, to be this is my way. Otherwise, you die. Something like that. I'm sending it to Jersey 6 feet under. That's the kind of thing that they need. And I don't think Dorival Jr. is the answer. So we're not gonna see much improvement from Brazil in the next couple of games. I want to say this year. Okay. Things are going to be different next year. Maybe he's going to take place on, but I don't think that Dorival Jr. is the answer that Brazil needs to bounce back and be the almighty Brazilians that we all loved. I don't think that is the guy.
Nino, I have a different take on it, man. I have a different take on Brazil, and I don't just for a brief moment. I don't think they need a manager who exerts the power down to the club. I think they need a manager who exerts power out to the infrastructure surrounding the Brazilian national team, the people of the higher ups, the media, to say, you all stay out. Because I don't think Brazil forgot how to develop players. I just think there's too much pressure that gets to the players from the outside in. They need a captain who is strong enough. Like, I think Ancelotti could have done that, where he could have told the power brokers within the federation, you stay out of my business. I'm running the team. media, you stay out of my business. I'm running the team. And that would have allowed the players to flourish in a way that they can't do, because the manager, whoever's there, knows they're going to be out of a job in 6 months, because the way the federation's built, they just cycle through managers too quickly. So I think they could have used an Ancelotti, but to exert power out and not necessarily to exert power within. That's just my 2 cents on the matter.
Right, and the other thing is they don't have a quarterback, man. They don't have a leader on the pitch. I think I said this to John 2-3 weeks ago or so. I think during the Copa America, the preview of the Copa America, that I remember, John, that I told you that I didn't think that Brazil was going to win it. That I think it was going to be Brazil was going to be out, and it's exactly what happened, because they don't have Dunga, they don't have a Casemiro, they don't have a man who runs the show on the pitch. There's a lot of talented players, but they're all dancers.
Right.
Dancers. We need somebody to lead the way. All right, to channel all the energy, to channel all the talents, the beautiful talents that we have playing on the pitch. But we need somebody, put the blue collar team and just run the show. But they don't have that.
Who could it be? Who could take that role? Who could be the guy that puts the hard hat on and has the big old hammer and can be that leader? Is there anybody that could be the leader like that right now?
They don't have anybody with those characteristics.
Wow.
They don't have any. There's no one.
Wow.
No one. And I'm thinking about it now. I was thinking Casemiro, but Casemiro, he's not in the same level. I mean, he's down the road now, and he, at United, he's having issues too. So at Manchester United, so he right now he's not. I think it'll be Casemiro, but at this moment, I don't think he's in the right state of mind to lead the way, Brazil. So yeah,
I mean it's crazy that you don't have somebody that can, be the hard hat in all of this. With these 10 teams that are beating each other up, after these next 2 matches, what are you anticipating the ladder to look like? Are you still looking at it being that first group of Argentina, Uruguay, Colombia? Does Venezuela, Ecuador, Brazil, does somebody sneak their way up to try to push the penthouse a little bit? Or are we going to be looking at pretty much more of the same, just more points that are attached to all of these numbers and these teams? Can somebody sneak up into that first group?
No. Not after this. No. Nothing is going to change. But the thing is, there's 2 tournaments on this World Cup qualifiers. All right, there are the teams that are going into the World Cup, all of them, and then the 4 of us. I'm saying us because it's Paraguay, Chile, Bolivia, and Peru. We're playing our tournament just to put 1 in.
Mm-hmm.
All right, whoever gets the 7th place, I don't know who that be at the end of the at the end of the competition. Pray for my team to be that. I don't think that we're going to qualify. Honestly, I don't think that we're going to qualify it. But you never know. But right now, it is the tournament of 4: Paraguay, Chile, Bolivia, and Peru, that we are going to fight until the very end for that spot number 7. Right now, it's Paraguay in there, but it's Chile also for 5 points. Bolivia 3, and we got 2, man. 2. It's 2 points.
You don't seem to be a happy man right now.
I don't like. I was talking the other day with these guys, and my expectations are so low right now. They're really low. It didn't happen in many years. That I have no expectations on the team. And plus, it's been happening lots of, lots of noise surrounding the Peruvian national team, right? What was the first one? So Fossati used to coach my team when he was at Deportes, right? So the federation called him after he won the championship last year. Hey, can you coach the national team? He said, yes, all right. So he went to the national team. And of course, he knows people in Universitario. And I don't know exactly what happened with the doctor of the Peruvian national team. But he wasn't available or something. And then he called his guy from Universitario. Hey, come over and work with us. Guess what happened? Alianza Lima, our arch rivals, they sent an official letter of complaint to the Peruvian Soccer Federation. How dare you? How dare you pick an Universitario Deportes doctor? There's a conflict of interest on this. What are you talking about, brother? What are you talking about? My God, ridiculous. And what else? We have the issues with some players that have been partying. Our number nines are not scoring a goal in like 10 years. I'm just saying, 10 years. But yeah, we got problems. But I got something beautiful that is happening. That Franco Salenato, one of the wingers, got injured. So immediately Fossati called Max Loren Castro. All right, get this name, 16 years old. 16 years old. He got 15 games in the Peruvian top flight division. He is, I'm not going to say he's a super talent, but I'm excited to see if he can get some minutes with the Peruvian national team. We got Kendry Páez for Ecuador, 17 years old. And we got now Max Loren with 16, and what's the other guy? Lamine Jamal. They're the youngest players in the planet to be played for their first national team. And I know this is not Peruvian related to Peru, but tomorrow is the last game for Luis Suarez, the magical striker, for me, the best number 9 in the last 15 years after Ronaldo Nazario Lima. I think he's my favorite number 9 of all time. Of all time, yes. He's retiring tomorrow. He's retiring. His last game with the La Celeste.
Yeah.
Over Brazilian Phenomenal? Over Phenomenal?
No, Phenomenal is number 1.
Okay.
But that's Ronaldo Nazario.
Oh, see. Okay.
I mean, man.
Yeah. He was like, hey, wait, over Phenomenal? No. He's number 1 of all time for me.
That's the one player who ever struck fear in my heart, man. When he was with Inter, it was like, oh my God. Like the minute the ball touched his foot, it's like, oh, here we go. Oh God.
And it's crazy, right? Because everyone remembers the Ronaldo from Barcelona, but in that year. But for me, that season, 96, 97, 98 with Inter, I think that was his best. Best.
Yeah, he was. I mean, we were discussing just yesterday. Yeah, I would discuss that. He would roam around up front and realize the ball's not coming to me. I'll drop to the half line and collect it. And he would get the ball at the half line, collect it, and then would turn like he was shot out of a cannon. And you couldn't outrun him. Even if you had an extra like 5 or 10 steps on him, you could not outrun him. You couldn't get the ball off his foot. And the moment he saw any daylight, it was like a missile leaving his foot going to the back of the net. And there was nothing you could do. It was just terrifying as a Milan supporter to watch this man play.
It was, man. Now, John, I got to tell you a story. You know the story about Ronaldo with his players in Valladolid?
No.
He's president of Valladolid, right? And they're strongly right now on the table. And he's seeing the issue with the finishes, right? So he went to the locker room because he's the president. Not the president, the owner of Valladolid. He went into the locker room and said, guys, once you get into the end zone, don't get nervous. It's so easy. Just pick one spot and put the ball in there. Everybody looked at me. That's easy for you, not for us.
Oh my God.
Sometimes I forgot I'm the owner and I'm thinking about the player, but Yeah.
So what are you going to be properly hydrated watching everything today? I mean, you're going to have to see, you got to pace yourself, because you and I we're talking right now. First match isn't until 4:00 Eastern time. So we're talking what? 5.5 hours from now. And then at 2000 hours, which is, almost 1000 hours from now, man, you got to pace yourself. How are you going to pace yourself before these two matches today and then all the action tomorrow?
I don't know. I'm getting ready. I've already got all the stats, everything popped up on my screen right now. You see my laptop, I got like the 10 windows open, and it's all about soccer today and tomorrow and up until next weekend. And also, John, so next Thursday, we might have some news. We'll let you know.
Oh, cool.
About this guy right here, this boys right here. So
wow. Our unrestricted free agent, Nino Torres. He's going to have
might come out of yeah. So
all right,
we'll get some news to you. You're going to be the first one to know. So
love you.
right.
So we will, once again, when you come back next week, we'll talk CONMEBOL, we'll talk everything else, and we'll talk about the news that you're going to break next week. Love you, brother, and be safe. Enjoy the game. Show that jersey one more time. Hit me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
No,
this is the Peruvian national. Yes.
look at that.
Yeah.
Number 10.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. So, all right. So that's the handoff. Nino is heading out. He's going to go watch CONMEBOL. Nico's coming in. We're going to talk a lot of stuff with Niko, with the Major League Soccer, what's going on here in Atlanta. Be well, Nino. We will catch up with you next week, my friend.
Love you, Nino. Take care, bro.
Me and Nino are rivals. Me and Nino are rivals this Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to see now next week. I want the full rundown about this rivals thing. So, Nino, we'll catch up with you next week, my brother. We'll see you soon.
All right. We'll talk about it. Bye, Nino.
All right. So, handoff official, and it's now time. I guess I should run the open, because, Niko's got a special open, since he's like, a big deal around here. So we're going to run his special open, and then we'll kick things off with Major League Soccer. 3, 4. There we go. Okay. We were talking about CONMEBOL and what's going on with the two matches coming up today, tomorrow, and then on Tuesday with Nino, and how his beloved Peru is at the bottom of the table, and they are chasing after that 7 spot. And so it was a quite involved conversation about what's going on. When you're looking at qualifiers this week and next, what's sticking to your mind with your favorite club?
They have to continue to build out of the momentum they gained and the play they showed during Copa America. Colombia at times gets a little triumphalist and they get a little bit too complacent when they've done well. And I hope that they don't do that, and that they go into this qualifiers showing that the type of play, it's going to be just as entertaining, dominant, and effective as it has been. Obviously, the rematch with Argentina is a big deal, so that's the biggest game of this particular week for Colombia. Peru's always tough. I mean, regardless of where they're at, I think Peru, Venezuela, no matter in what form they're in, they always give Colombia some issues. It's exciting to see Cucho Hernandez be called up. I think that he's a guy that has been overlooked almost his whole career by Colombia. He's been called up a couple of times, but hasn't really been a protagonist. It's tough. It's tough in Colombia because you got so many good players. You got so many good attackers. Sinestera, Luis Diaz. You got Cordova. You have so many options up there that it's tough for Cucho, but I really hope that he's not just called up to be called up and sit on the bench. I hope that he gets some minutes. So that's probably the biggest thing on my mind, is hoping that Cucho, who is a friend of the show, who's a great guy and someone who's so passionate and involved with everything involved in soccer, I really hope that he does well. But it's going to be interesting how Nestor Lorenzo in Colombia take their first game after being second in Copa America, which is no small deal.
Yep, minus 141 against Niko's Colombia, minus 141 going up against Nino's Peru at a plus 418. So now that we've got that transition, let's talk Major League Soccer. Nick, first thought in your head for Niko this morning.
All right, so Niko, I've got some challenges going on here in Atlanta, and maybe you can help me with. So starting with the changes that have been going on here, Carlos Bocanegra out, Garth for the moment running the show until a new general manager is named. I have questions because I think what Garth considers swinging for the fences and what the Atlanta fan base may consider swinging for the fences may be two radically different things. And Garth says, trust me, I know what I'm doing here. My question is, asking someone who is well tied to Seattle culture, well tied to the Sounders culture, how much support did Garth have in Seattle when that squad was really running things in this league? How much say so? How much input did Garth have? Or was there a large sort of support structure around him?
That's a great question. I am not going to sit here and discredit the fantastic team that Garth had here. And we'll probably get to talking about the other guy that was next to him at some point today. I kind of came along with that idea. Yeah. But what I will say is that Garth Lagerwey was the man with the biggest voice. He's the guy that had the plans. He's the guy that honestly did things that now are and continue to be a positive in the organization, even when results on the MLS side are not great at the time. But just to go off of one is just how much money and how much effort and how much involvement he had with boosting the academy in the youth system. And that was his call, and he put so much into it. And now you have so many players coming in and being a part of the first team. I would say that when it comes to negotiations, he was the man up front. He was the guy that was fighting for the Roman Torreses, that was going out there and making sure that things got done with the Raul Ruidíazes. I mean, when it comes to being a dog on the negotiating table, I mean, he was the man. So it was a balance, and we'll just go ahead and say the name. Chris Henderson, you've heard me talk about. He's the Starkey to his Hutch, and you know, it's really something that worked fantastically. They have back-to-back birthdays. They are yin and yang. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, it was amazing the way those two worked together here. That along with Sean Henderson and a whole bunch of other components that were part of that team here in the organization. But what I will say is that if you are doubting Garth Lagerwey, just look at his track record and look at what he's done and look at his ability to even scout. And if not scout, decide on the right players with the intangibles, with the right stuff, not going for the guy with the name and the highlights. And no. He goes for a guy that's going to come in and be a difference maker. I mean, was there small players that came in and were not amazing? Sure. But if there was something always true about Garth Lagerwey, is that with that DP spot, he wasn't missing, baby. He would tell me, Niko, this is like a first-round draft pick for an NFL team. And he never missed. And that's what's important for him to do when he's in charge. I think he'll do it. I think he'll make the right choice at the coaching department for Atlanta. I think he'll make the right choice with the two DP spots. He promised and said that they would not go into 2025 without filling. I believe him. Okay. Garth Lagerwey has always been a guy that holds to his word. So I do believe him. I do trust him. And he was a huge part of the success here in Seattle. He was a huge part of the success that RSL had. I just think that his track record speaks for itself.
Okay, because in Atlanta, when we consider the track record, For us, it's also the past couple of years that Garth has been here, that the results have been far from what we have wanted anyway. And with Chris Henderson, it's hard to tease apart in Miami because you have such a cult of personality around Messi and all the players who want to go. Before Messi showed up, Miami was mid, I think is being generous, but they were a very mid team. So it's hard for people in Atlanta to buy into, hey, look at the track record in Seattle. We know what we're doing. So that's exactly why I asked you that question, because it's hard for us to buy into that.
And there's great context, because when it comes to that, I mean, you guys got to understand that Gardlager was not brought in to be a GM or a sporting director. I mean, he was brought in to do something beyond soccer. So he comes in, has to adapt to a new role, has to understand away from the soccer component. He has to do a whole bunch of other things. He has to not rock the boat and give a guy that to me should have been gone a long time ago, like Carlos Bocanegra, the benefit of the doubt. You want to make sure that maybe it wasn't him, maybe it was the structure around him.
Right.
He has to remove pieces. He has to get rid of the dead weight that Atlanta had. I mean, Atlanta had done things wrong for so many years that you can't just expect the guy to come in and just change it. Same thing as a president of a country. If things have been bad for 4 years, he's not going to change it in 1, 2, or 3. You got to give him that extra time. As a GM, he always said that 3 years is about how long it takes for him to flip a roster. At his new position, he has to do a lot more. So it's I understand the frustration for Atlanta, because, and this is not a Garth thing, this is the Atlanta United thing, that they started so red hot, so on top. They have this amazing building, these incredible fans. They have all of these star players, Almiron and Martinez, and it's beautiful and it's amazing. It's the greatest show on turf, whatever you want to call it. And then it's a decline, and you're in the doghouse, and you can't get things right, and you bring a whole bunch of coaches that should have never been there, and that didn't match the system, that they didn't match the players, and you spend a whole bunch of money on players that were busts. So all of that affects everything for the future. So I'm asking you guys to really understand the fact that he's not out here just cutting kids' hairs. I mean, that is a huge responsibility. There's so many components, and he himself was not able to just do the soccer component. He had to worry about other things. So it takes even more time. So I think he'll choose the right guy when it comes to the guy below him. I think he'll choose the right guy when it comes to the coaching staff. And I think that he will bring 2 immediate impactful players for Atlanta United.
How much did analytics play into Garth when he was on the GM side of things? Because now as a president and CEO, he's over in the day-to-day operations. He's over here. When he was on the player activation side and the player acquisition side, how big was analytics in his DNA when he was there in Seattle?
Oh, it was big. And I want to say Ravi was one of the guys that was at the time here handling things like that. And I mean, they had a whole team that he's always been the type of guy that regardless of where he's at in the chain of command or the totem pole, whatever you want to call it, he's always going to give the specialist in the area the ability to have a big influence on the topic. So data was a huge thing for them. It was part of the reason why I believe that they were successful at bringing in guys that maybe other teams were overlooking. The Gustav Svenssons, the Kim Ki-hees, the players that maybe were free agents. And now, again, I don't want to take any credit away from Chris and Sean, but I think Garth Lagerwey, his ability to build a roster and his ability to understand things as simple as keeping Brian Smetzer because it was working, that tells you everything that you need to know about Garth Lagerwey. So when it comes to data, I do believe that it's a big part of his overall thought process. And he's always going to allow the guys that are specialists on it to be a big influence on whatever decision gets made.
Nick, go for it.
All right. Yeah. See, this is, and before you came on, John gave me some time where I laid out all of my concerns, right? So, and that's why I asked the questions that I ask, because I think things have been going wrong here for such a period of time. And I do respect the fact that, we had a run of injuries. I don't know if you've been keeping up with, during that time period, we lost Guzan to like a Achilles injury. We had it seemed like every other week a new player was dropping, and we had to make a bunch of rushed contract signings that frankly did not work out. And so that's been clear now. And so it's hard for me to buy into the analytics model because, we've seen where the analytics model has gone wrong before. So I think this is a bit of a new ground for us here, because Atlanta's a city that it is an entertainment capital, which means that we need sizzle with the steak. It's not just get a win, but it's like how you win is also important. And so that is why I think there's, a lot of concern with what, Garth has said here. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I appreciate what you said though, because from the outside looking in, when you see certain sports markets, us on the outside look in and say, okay, it looks like it's a conglomerate sort of running Seattle. Like there's not one clear person running the show. It's sort of like by committee, but now we're hearing that that's not necessarily the case from somebody who's inside that market. So I think it's good to hear your perspective on it as well, because it kind of, maybe it helps somebody who's listening to the show kind of, release some of the tension and concern. Some people, maybe not, but I appreciate what you've brought to the table from that perspective.
Yeah, I'll close with this, man. Look, I think Garth is brilliant, but I think he's also a great people person and somebody that can gauge a structure and keep what's working and get rid of what's not. It would have been very easy for Garth to come in and kick Bocanegra as soon as he got there. If he had the sort of power, and I believe he did, and change it up and bring his own guys and all of these things. But he needed to see what was working and what was not. So it's not about rushing into something. It's about using all the resources. It's about trying to keep what's working and then getting rid of what's not. And I think that talks to what Garth Lagerwey does. I go back to the Brian Spencer thing. Brian was not Garth Lagerwey's guy. If Garth could have done it, he would have brought in another coach. But it's working. The guys are buying in. Things are going in the right direction. He lets him be interim head coach. He stays at head coach. Things continue to work. You give him resources. You give him everything. And you have the greatest era in Sounder history. That talks about Garth Lagerwey. He doesn't have to put his stamp on everything. He's just going to assess it. And I think that's what happened in Atlanta at an even different level, because he's dealing with so many more things than just soccer-related subjects.
So then now that Garth is on the executive side, and there are two openings that are key openings. I mean, this is Garth now putting his stamp on this organization going forward, because he's looking for a GM. It is a global search with MLS experience. That's what he's looking at for a general manager. The coach, don't know if, it's going to be, you're going to have a simultaneous coach search where Garth, as the interim general manager, is going to be putting his stamp on that as well. We were trying to look at those with worldwide experience that are either in MLS now, that have worked their way into Major League Soccer. Came up with a couple of names, but obviously when Tom Bogert puts Chris Henderson's name out there and explains an anecdote about his current situation, whether or not, it was someone else telling Chris, okay, that, Son Leahy wants your office, or Son Leahy's like, I'm taking your office. Like I said, we don't know that. We have context of an anecdote involving Chris Henderson and Mr. Sunleahy right now in soccer operations down there at Inter Miami. What kind of an individual is Chris when it comes to his own operating style? Because he went into a situation in Miami where they thought that 5 equaled 3 when it came to designated players. He had to go in and clean up a mess. He cleaned up the mess, and now he's been able to navigate the cap, bring in the Gulfstream Galacticos, bring in Messi, navigate, sell DeAndre Yedlin for a weird AM, bring in all these players and navigate, bring in Redondo at prorated numbers. What kind of, when you think of Chris Henderson as a manager and that GM side of things, what comes to mind? How does he operate, and what kind of a guy is Chris Henderson?
I think he's the perfect balance of someone who understands MLS, is perfectly networked in the best leagues in the world, whether it's South America, Europe. I think he's the guy that is going to come in with this super cool vibe, like, you might see it in a movie, and the glows around him, and he can just manage and get things done his way. When it comes to scouting, he's fantastic as well. I think that's why he works so well with Garth. I believe that when he came to the budget and the salary cap, Garth was always the guy that was doing all those things. And then when he came to bringing in a variety, a gambit of players, everything started with Chris. And that's exactly why I think they work so well. If there's something interesting about Chris, is that he's kind of changed a little bit compared to the guy he was here. And that's what maybe I buy into the fact that when you hear, is Chris Henderson going to leave Inter Miami, which sounds like a perfect situation, I don't know if it is. I don't know if Chris Henderson, the guy who here was either the next phase of that operation, to kind of being a guy that we know what he's doing in Inter Miami, but the David Beckhams, the Moss brothers, those are the guys that kind of get a lot of the credit and the headlines. And even Tata Martino is a guy that, so-and-so came, Redondo came, and they were able to get Diego Gomez because of Tata, not because of Chris Henderson. So because of that, although Chris Henderson is not a guy that's looking for the spotlight, I do believe that he's a prideful person because he puts in a lot of work. You want me to tell you what was another incredible thing about Chris Henderson? His hustle. Regardless of being up there in the totem pole, he was a hustler. He was getting up, first guy in the office, last guy leaving it, no stone unturned, getting every single option possibility available looked at. That was a lot of his game. And that's exactly why I believe that he's a workaholic that will change and turn around a sinking ship like in Miami was into the brand new cruise of the South Coast, right? I mean, it's beautiful in Florida right now because of a guy like Chris Henderson at Inter Miami. So he's the sort of guy that I feel like would be willing to get away from what seems like a perfect situation right now, and maybe go to a place like Atlanta where he's going to really be the face of the operation, especially with Garth Lagerwey more on the executive side. That would be a perfect situation, to be quite honest. But that's who Chris Henderson is. He's a guy that, especially with the right resources, he'll bring you whatever you want. Look, it was interesting when Chris went to Inter Miami, Leonardo Campana, Gregory, a whole bunch of guys that came in. Those were guys that Chris was looking at here in Seattle, that he went after, that in the negotiating table things fell off. But over there is a little bit different. So he has the resources. I feel like in Atlanta, he has the resources, and he has this great, I mean, it's not Miami, right, in terms of like living situation, but in the soccer spectrum, woo, I mean, that's a great place. The vibes, everything about it. So, man, I see what you guys are laying out, and I'm following right along with it. And I think everybody in MLS and everyone looking at this situation says, wow, if Chris Henderson wants to go to Atlanta, it'd be the perfect situation.
Wow. Okay. Nick, what's going on?
No, I like that's I've asked my questions,
Okay.
right? Because I was Captain Negativity for the first part. And I asked my questions. I've heard what I wanted to I heard what I wanted to hear. Now, I will sit back and observe. That will be because I have a more limited window of Garth Lagerwey than what Niko has. Mm-hmm. My take on Garth Lagerwey is, so far, I've seen a whole lot of chatter and not a whole lot of action. Mm-hmm. Right now, if Niko, and I trust Niko, one, as a journalist, I trust Niko as a voice of reason. So if Niko's telling me, look, you got to look beyond this window, I'm willing to do that, because what Niko brings to the table is a respected voice in his community. So I'm willing to listen to what Niko's saying, and I will sit to the side and say, okay, we'll give this, let this process play out. Mm-hmm. And see how it shakes. So I'm there's no but, there's no however. I'm just going to sit back and let the process play out and take Niko, and respect what Niko's saying.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
well, and I mean, Niko, you had mentioned earlier in our conversation that it was almost a 3-year turnaround to get from point A to a desired point B. So we're halfway through that discussion right now, with Garth having been here for 18 months on the executive side of things.
Yeah, no, exactly. And again, that was from him, regardless of walking into a better situation, because in Seattle, he had a guy like Chris Henderson that wasn't just putting money in a big pile and setting it on fire like it was in Atlanta. So obviously it was easier to get there, but the 3-year turnaround, it's a real thing.
All right. You and I had been talking about news in the Pacific Northwest. Are you going to tease news in the Pacific Northwest, or are you going to break news in the Pacific Northwest?
Man, I wish I could break them, but I literally got on with my editor and I just asked about it. And there is a story coming out here in Seattle, just simply about Raul Ruidiaz's situation. We can get into a lot of other things when it comes to the Sounders, because obviously they're in a tough position, and looking at the end part of the schedule, it's not as easy as it once looked. So we can take a look at that. But yes, definitely weigh Sounder our heart. We're going to have a big story dropping this morning about Raul Ruidiaz and his situation with the Seattle Sounders.
Okay, so speaking of which, handful of teams have decided that, we don't need the international break and we got to catch up on matches. And so, of course, Seattle has a trip to Columbus to take on Crew. Gee, thanks.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Look, Columbus is out 6 players, so I guess it's a good situation for Seattle. No Cucho, Russell Rowe has been called up. Obviously, both goalkeepers have been called up. I mean, that's a lot of Farsi won't be there either. So that's a lot of good players that won't be part of a Columbus Crew team. That I think if me and you were to go out there, we all of a sudden will find magic at our feet, because that's what Wilfred Nancy can inspire. But at the same time, Seattle needs to win. Seattle, it's beyond hunger. I think that there's a necessity for them to show something, right? The Portland game was like watching paint dry, and nothing really worked well. I think that Georgie Manungu was the most entertaining player on the field, and he came on in the second half. He was a Tacoma Defiance guy that was just signed, that has that eye of the tiger at the moment, and he was fantastic. But aside from that, not a lot went well. Brian Spencer talked about Pedro La Vega at times doing a lot because he feels the need to just show what he hasn't been able to because of injuries, so doing a little too much. Nuhu and some of his issues defensively. So Seattle really needs this win. I think that there's a lot more problematics that you might see. Look, I'm going to go ahead and at least give you something. Leo Chu has been relegated, really, because there's nothing negative about when you have to discipline a player, but I don't want to call it discipline because that's not what it is. But it does seem like there is a doubt on how much effort Leo Chu's putting in, and how impactful he can be. And so we asked Brian Smetzer, because look, he pointed at an injury for the reason why Leo Chu was not in the 18 against Portland. And he mentioned an injury that we never saw, that wasn't in the injury report, that as much as I try to find and dig, no one told me he was injured. And so Brian kind of mentioned a situation where the player said he felt something and he stopped doing a drill for like a warm-up, but then he came back in. So it sounded like in between the lines, he was saying, look, man, if you're going to act like you have an injury or you're not feeling this exercise and you're going to come back in, I'm going to take you out of your word, man, and I'm not going to play you in the game when you're not kind of giving me 100. So this is me speculating, but if you go back and you look at what Brian Metzer said about it, he gives you some room for, I don't know, taking it your own way. So this locker room has had issues. Nuhu, Raul were both disciplined or there was an internal issue. It mattered that was at hand. Leo has been just off the charts and hasn't really been part of the team. He's showed displeasure. I think JP we've seen come off a lot of times upset and angry. I think that there's a lot of holes and a lot of problematics. There's been more evidence of turmoil that I've ever remember seeing with the Sounders team. So how they can fix that or harness that as the season ends could potentially put him in the playoffs or put him off. Because right now, Seattle has they have their own future in their hands. Every team they play here on out is above them. So they got to win. They got to get some points. But if they don't, then they'll quickly find themselves out of the playoffs, man. And there are teams that are below them, like Dallas, that, as I mentioned last week, they're getting good players back. They're looking a little better. Colorado looks good. I mean, there's just a lot going on for a Seattle team that if they don't make the playoffs, man, I think that there's no way that Brian Metzer stays in charge, that there isn't huge changes coming up. So I think this last spell of games for the Seattle Sounders are even more important than you might think.
All right, other matchups that we've got. There's 5 others. Revs at home, plus 112, hosting All Caps. Red Bulls at a minus 156, hosting Sporting Kansas City, who's basically a plus 400. Chicago Fire at a plus 104, hosting DC United at a plus 239. So Fire, a prohibitive favorite at home, still on the plus side. Houston hosting LAFC at a plus 106. LAFC is a plus 231 on the road. And then the late game, Vancouver hosting FC Dallas, even money plus 100. FC Dallas at a plus 250, draws a plus 265. What sticks in your head with those?
The LAFC, what'd you tell me? Plus what?
231.
Wow. Look, man, as much as Houston has been good and as much as they've brought in some good pieces, I think LAFC, after what happened last week, they're going to go in there, baby. They're going to go in with everything and just let Houston have it. I really do think that this is a statement game for LAFC in terms of pride, in terms of what's ahead. So I like that. And what's the compositive on goals? Because, man, I'm telling you, LAFC is going to go out there and try to tear this team apart.
All right, so your total, as it's laid out, 2.5 is a minus 155. 3.5 is a plus 158. So it changes at 3 at a plus 106. And so anything above 3 is on the plus side.
Yeah, I'll actually take. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that without a doubt. Look, the Dynamo, Lucianelli, which is terrible for a team that he was so good. He had been so good for them, and he had been a guy that gave them some very needed speed and dynamic on the left side. As much as they're a good, solid defensive team, I really do think that LAFC is going to come out there with everything, and they're going to let him have it. So I'll take LAFC, and I'll take the goals on now.
Okay, 3.5 is a plus 158. 4 is a plus 272. 4.5 is a plus 342. So that's the big number on the board. All right, since you teased that there's a story coming, what else is going on in your universe?
Today, Soccer Bar will be delayed all the way to 11:30 because of those same reasons behind the story that's going to be coming out. We will be at the training grounds today talking to Brian Metzer before Seattle does a very brief training session and travels to Columbus. So go ahead and check that out, both Pulso Sports and Soccer Bar. And again, Sandra Hard, within a couple of hours, you guys should be able to look at this story on Raul Ruidiaz and a little bit of an insight on what's going on there in Seattle.
Always, my friend, looking forward to it. May the deadlines be made, may the sources be correct, and may the stories be A-pluses. We'll catch up with you. We'll talk CONMEBOL and everything else on a full week coming up next time. Thanks for dropping by as always, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Nick. Thanks for the trust, man. And thanks to your audience always for listening to this poor guy here in the Pacific Northwest.
Who's on his second or third cup of coffee. That's usually how.
Oh, yeah. This is number 3, baby. This is number 3. Ooh, there it is.
All right. Be good. He's in the rave green. He's got the mug. He's out the door. All right, Nick, before we get out of here, we got to tell folks what to watch, where to watch it, and see if anything is on the pay-per-views or if everything can be seen by all of us. DAZN USA has UEFA Women's Champions League at 1:45 and 4. Paramount Plus has the Argentine Copa de la Liga at 8:30, Lanús and Union Santa Fe. So if you are looking for the CONMEBOL qualifiers, I'm guessing it's on pay-per-view, and you're going to have to spend $11 gazillion in trying to figure out how to actually watch everything and anything that is going on this morning. So that sounds like it's a full run of trying to figure out what's going on. Oh, by the way, European qualifiers, it was mentioned, San Marino and Liechtenstein going on today at 2:45 as a part of the European theater. The 2 worst national teams ever, measured by a combined ongoing winless run of 179 matches. This afternoon at 2:45. Watch it if you can find it. San Marino are on a world record 140-game winless streak. Liechtenstein have not won for 39 matches, and so that one once again at 2:45 this afternoon. Looking for San Marino, our friends from San Marino, and our friends from Liechtenstein. So we'll keep an eye on that. And so Alex Basine letting us know about Alex Morgan and going on Alex Morgan's Twitters and seeing what the latest is. She has done a 4.5-minute video where she's trying to find the right words to say. And so it appears that she's heading to retirement. So Alex Morgan, go watch the full 4.5 minutes on her Twitters, retiring this Sunday. So, wow, that's a heavy retirement, and that's a pretty quick retirement for Alex Morgan. So, oh, wow. Thank you for watching, Alex. So, Alex watching Alex, retiring this Sunday, and also going to be adding to the family. So, very, very cool stuff with Alex Morgan. And we know that she's going to crush it in whatever she wants to do next, and that includes being a mom. So very, very cool stuff there. Busy day. You got qualifiers in Europe. You got qualifiers with CONMEBOL. I'm sure you can find it. And if maybe it's on Fanati's, fntz.co/soccer down here. And what you can do is watch BN, CDO, Nuestro Tele for the fans, TSA, all of that stuff. Gold TV all in one place. And become a true degenerate because Jason got me hooked. I blame him. Nick, thoughts from this morning, and thanks for hanging out for the whole time.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Hey, look, here's the thing. And this is for anybody who is listening, no matter where they are.
Yes.
I issue my honest thoughts, right? But I'm always open to hearing another side, a different viewpoint, right? When there's an honest and ethical source on the other side, right? Mm-hmm. I'm happy to do that. And I think that's what we accomplished today. We kind of got our feelings out there, and then we asked questions. We paused. There was no jumping in, no spiking questions, nothing. I think we asked honest questions. We got honest feedback, and play the full house. We learned something music today.
Yes.
So, I think that's one of the things I love about this show. And that's why I love doing this show, is that we have honest criticism, we have honest thoughts, but we also listen to honest feedback. So I think that's something that I appreciate Niko coming on and having that conversation, because I'm not going to lie, I was kind of feeling some things, but it's good to hear his feedback. And now, like I said, I'm going to sit back and watch how it plays out. and we'll go from there.
Yep. Tomorrow's going to be another day here in SDH. We'll be looking at stuff. The Ballon d'Or has a serious omission. We'll be getting into that. Ben Jacobs has stuff on Leicester. Anguilla won for the first time, I think, in competition in CONCACAF, winning 2-0. So huzzahs and congratulations, and all of the trumpeting goes to Anguilla for what they were able to do. Back at it again, a little less than 22, and we'll discuss everything going on heading into that weekend, see if anything's changed when it comes to the 6 matches on the board. Before we get out of here, let me say hi to everybody who dropped in this morning. I know that Wiley dropped in and got kind of hot about everything going on, and then he left. So morning, Alex. Morning, Abby. Morning, Harry. Morning, Kefsey, who's a fan of chimichurri. Morning, Rich. Morning, Alex. Morning, Wiley. Morning, David. I'm trying to see if I'm hitting anybody that I haven't. Morning, Emilio. Let's see. Morning to me. And that's it. So thanks to everybody who was in the Twitch pitch who commented. Thanks to everybody who was watching us, however you watched us. And we'll be back at it again tomorrow in a little less than 22. So, Nick, if you would please, while I search for the brand closing banner, if you would please send us home as you do.
No matter, I hope that no matter where you are and what you're doing in life, if you have any sort of disagreements or questions, that you feel free to ask those questions and try to find the honest sources in your life to get feedback, and then make your own decisions. Don't let anyone make decisions for you. Ask honest questions, listen to honest feedback, verify, check, and then come to your own conclusions. Until next time, everybody, we love you all so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. Mucha, mucha Euro, y'all.